Welcome to the Pull Up a Chair show. I'm Dr. Christy Wick.
And I'm Dr. Jake Grenacher.
And we are here to let you in on our in-depth conversations on chiropractic practice, personal development, leadership, and business excellence.
If you are needing inspiration, motivation, clarity, or permission in any of these areas of your life, we're glad you're here. Pull up a chair.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pull Up a Chair. And today we are going to be talking about something that we know many of you have to do probably too often, and it's gotten consistently harder, I would say, over the years, and that is hiring. Hiring is a hot topic always in all the Facebook groups. Everyone's looking for, the newest ad language and, how to find that unicorn that is going to be with you for a really long time. And so there's a couple key characteristics that we have found in our combined years of practice that you really can't teach. They're just innate qualities that you need to make sure that you are looking for when you are attracting that right new team player. And really, there's three things that we're going to boil down for you today that are just things that are either there or they're not. And so we want to walk you through that, as well as, ways that you can differentiate whether or not these characteristics are there when you are in the interview process.
Absolutely. And I know that we talk about a lot. I know that if you've gone through it and you've been in practice for more than 10 minutes and you've hired someone, most of the things that we do in the day-to-day chiropractic office are not so technical that you need a specialized degree. They need previous chiropractic office experience. Sometimes it's actually a detriment depending on where they've came from and if you have to rebuild their whole idea of what it is. So there's not a lot of technical skills that they need. There's not a lot of experience, or they have to have gone to this schooling. So it does become very hard. Like it's very hard if you're searching for a chemical engineer. They have to have a chemical engineering degree. They have to have these skill sets. It actually becomes a little bit easier almost to do that. When we have a wide open field, it becomes very hard because everything in a chiropractic office is very teachable. However, like Christy said and set up so well, there is three things that we want you to look at, and there may be more. You may add a fourth or a fifth if you're creating this yourself, but three real key things that you want to make sure you're looking for in that potential staff member.
So one of the first things to really look at is, as Jake mentioned, hiring someone that is familiar with the chiropractic philosophy, that understands innate. That's pretty rare. And a lot of chiropractors do chase that. They get really excited if someone applies that has worked in a chiropractic office before. I actually don't like that at all. I agree with Jake. And the reason being, I am always just looking for someone that is at least just open-minded enough that they are ready to be a sponge and learn our version of chiropractic, what family practice looks like inside our four walls, what types of people we are looking to attract. Because if they come in and, they've been down the medical path their whole life, that doesn't necessarily mean that they think that's the only way. It just oftentimes is the only thing they've been exposed to. So they might be super open-minded with other avenues. They just never have had the opportunity to learn about that. They haven't been, exposed to that in their day-to-day life. They don't have a mentor in that arena. That's less and less nowadays because obviously the crunchy mom movement is alive and well and thriving. Yeah. But, especially way back when, and certainly even now, we're certainly attracting people that are applying for the job that think it's just like a receptionist position, right? So they're open to being a receptionist in any type of environment. But making sure that you're asking questions in your interview process to just ascertain whether or not they're open-minded is really helpful. So we like to ask questions like, when you think of chiropractic, what do you think of? And just kind of seeing where they take it. Oftentimes they will talk about other things that they've seen and heard that they're curious about, even if they don't know anything about it. So they might say back and neck pain, but they'll also say like, but I also have a friend who randomly takes her toddler for ear infections. I think that's really interesting. I don't understand why she would do it, but that's really interesting to me. So that's just one example. Obviously, you can't sit someone down in an interview and say, when you have a headache, you have to be careful about your approach. But there's lots of just kind of open questions that you can ask to see if that level of curiosity is there, that they are going to be teachable and they're going to be hungry to learn more. I also love to just say, like, tell me about your personal health philosophy. You can ask anyone about their philosophy, right? So that also gives me a lot of information. If they tell me that they love essential oils or they're, starting to dabble in, different types of supplements or whatever it is, I can get a lot from that, just knowing if they're ready to dip their toe into this holistic life.
Absolutely. The other thing that I really like to do is if you can get down this path, and depending on, we should probably do another one on interviewing strategies and techniques and all that kind of stuff. But depending on if you're in a one-on-one and you're asking more open-ended questions, or if you do some type of maybe like a group interview process, even if I'm with someone one-on-one, I like to really lean into our mission, right? I lean into our mission. I lead why we're passionate about this stuff. And you can tell whether someone's leaning in and they're all in and excited and asking questions, or they're just like, kind of checked out. It's pretty easy to tell something like that. And there's another way to tell someone if they're like, wow, they really are open to this idea of naturally minded, health conscious, kind of a health warrior, if you will, or it's just like, nah, it's a job for me, right? And I think you can tell that by body language. If they're leaning in, if they're asking more questions, like, oh, that's so cool, or it's just kind of like, oh, you know what I mean? I think you can gauge some of that, whether it be in an individual or a group setting specifically, who's leading in, who's excited, who's really, soaking it all in as you're talking, and you can feel that as part of it too.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And there's lots of ways to do that. You could, get talk testimonials and see what they respond to with that. You can give them a great office tour as part of the interview and see if they ask questions based on things you're pointing out, maybe the tech that you have in the office, or, other things that are really indicative of just the philosophy. Those are all key indicators. So that is number one. Are they open-minded to holistic health? If they're not already down the path, do they at least show signs that be excited to go on that journey with you and the rest of the team? So that's number one. Number two, is, are they able to actually start things on their own and be a problem solver? So Jake's going to talk to you about that one.
Yeah, and really what it is that you just want someone that like you can give a task and they'll figure out their way through it, right? Do they need a checklist every day? Do they need a micromanager, right? And I think we can all agree that like no one wants to micromanage people, but that's how some people in some how they're wired, or B, that's their entire work experience, is that they were given a task list, they work through their task list. When they're immediately done their task list, they're on Instagram, they're searching online shopping because they finished their task list, right? Or can you give someone something, a problem, an instance, and they're gonna problem solve their way through it. They're gonna self-start like different projects. Do they have that ability to do that? So my big thing is, do they have the ability to problem solve and self-start? Is that second one for me.
And a big part of that as well, if you are new to having team members, it does take some time for you to develop the skill set to lead in that manner. Like a lot of people, when you first start being a leader in an office environment, innately, some people are just micromanagers, and you do give them tasks, you give them task lists because you just don't know any different. And so a lot of this also boils down to, as you look for that in the hire, just making sure you're following up with that trust component and helping them understand, like, you care about the end result. And as Jake said, how you get from start to end result, I'm okay with whatever version of that exists, but just making sure that you talk about that in your interview process, that you love to give autonomy and you love to give project-based tasks because you want people to have the creative freedom to kind of get from point A to point B, and just seeing how they respond to that thought process as well. Because honestly, I think some people actually enjoy, like, they are looking for a job that just gives like boom, 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 right? And then that's just not oftentimes not what we are capable of having in an office, because you are all adjusting and you're not able to, your job isn't just managing people, right? Your job is to actually be a phenomenal chiropractor, and that people management part actually has to be a secondary percentage of your day-to-day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Pull Up a Chair Show.
So
whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the show on your favorite platform, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.
If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a colleague. We would be honored.
To connect with us, you can find us on IG at The Pursuit Kairos, or you can email us at connect@thepursuitkairos.com.
Looking for the right starting point, and then they're not nurturing from there. So
Yeah.
that is number two, self-starter, problem solver. Either they're okay with you not telling them step 1 through 7 on how to complete this task, or they're not. There's not a lot of people in the middle. So you want someone that's okay with that. And then number 3 is, for lack of a better word, just personality. You really can't change innately how someone shows up in the world, how they interact with people. And that is obviously something that you have to think through, when Jake is talking about your mission, you also have to think about just the makeup and structure of your team right now and just what fits, and what's going to be necessary to help patients when it comes to that connection level versus what is potentially going to make things a little bit more difficult. Every single day, we have to bring all of ourselves in order to be able to connect with patients, to support them, to educate them, to lead them through this journey of their care plan and wellness care. And so there are very specific types of people that enjoy that level of connection. And that isn't necessarily something you can teach. It's just something that people are looking for in an opportunity. And it's what helps make them feel fulfilled, and stay with you longer because they're really looking forward to that connection every single day.
The great thing about this step is that when you're looking at like, are they naturally health minded, or you're looking at are they a self-starter? There's some very specific questions in an interview you want to give them, very specific scenarios that you want you to get them to answer to find out if there's those other two things. This other one is very much, for associates, it's easy. I always called it take them out for a beer test, right? Like, are you 45 minutes in the conversation and feel like it's been 2 minutes? Or are you 2 minutes in the conversation, it feels like it's been an hour and you're trying to chew your arm off to get out of there, right? Like, but you can have that. Like, I do a lot of my interviews after they're fitting qualifications and they seem really great. We're going out to coffee and we're just starting like, hey, tell me about your family. And it's literally 15 minutes of conversation. And if it's like, holy cow, I got to get into the interview, this is great. Or like, wow, we ran out of stuff in 30 seconds to talk about. Like, that personality is, especially if you've done this a little bit, is the easiest thing to kind of spot and know, like, well, this person would fit in well with our team, or like, oh, they wouldn't, and those are things that you just have to kind of do it and realize it, but it's something you want to sort out, because if you feel that and you have a good pulse on your practice as far as your staff and your patients, you'll know whether they fit in with that group just by kind of interacting through those things. But don't discount that. That is massively important. If someone answers the self-starter question, they seem like they're great on that, they're naturally health-minded, but like, you go out to coffee or something and they just won't fit your team, remember, they'll be spending more time with the rest of your team than they will with you. That has to be a cohesive thing.
One other easy way, especially for a CA hire, to determine if this is going to work is just have part of your interview process be a 1 or 2 hour job shadow basically in the practice. So I especially love to use this if I'm down to 2 candidates that I really like both of them and I'm having a hard time deciding, having them in the environment so that I can see how they interact with the rest of the team, how they interact with patients, if they're at the desk and they have an opportunity to talk to people. It's really easy to just see if they're going to thrive in that environment or if they're going to take a lot more hand-holding than really we're able to do. So that's another just quick and easy thing that you can do, even for associate hires as well. Obviously, that is having them in the practice more than a few times before you pull the trigger on an associate is really important, because there's really nothing that's going to tell you how it's going to be without just seeing that first few hours of interaction firsthand. So
another little practical tip on that too is that even if it's like before a job shadow part, have the interview start at 6:15, right, in your mind, but it starts at 6. So they're there at 6 and your staff takes them around, gives them a tour. They're kind of finding out how they are with this, naturally health-minded stuff. They're not feeling like it's part of the interview yet, and you're going to get much truer kind of personality, and you're going to get that vibe. Like, and after the interview is done, I'll sit down with my team and be like, hey, what did you think? Good, bad, ugly. You know what I mean? And they'll have some really good insights in that. So if this isn't your first hire, if it's a second hire, make sure you involve the rest of your team into it, because you'll gain some very valuable insights. They let their guard down a little bit more, maybe around the rest of the team versus like the interview with you. So you might not find a ton of valuable information about their personality and their true measure of, are they interested in this as like a, wow, it's maybe a very naturally health minded or something that I can picture myself doing, or is it a job? You find a ton out from your team.
So if this is something that you need more information on, if you need us to go through like A to Z what we do for a hiring process, reach out to us on social. We'd love to hear specifically what you are challenged with or what you're just looking for new ideas on. It's always helpful to not have to reinvent the wheel when people have gone and done exactly what you are looking to do. So let us know what you need help with, and we will see you on the next episode of Pull Up a Chair.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Pull Up a Chair show.
Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the show on your favorite platform, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.
If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a colleague. We would be honored.
To connect with us, you can find us on IG at The Pursuit Chiros, or you can email us at connect@thepursuitkairos.com.